Rain's shroud is getting called out by his party members. Arios tells Rain he has been fired from the party. Rain asks for the reason, and that is because he is useless. So Rain leaves the party along with the gear. Rain starts thinking about what he should do now in the city on the horizon. While he was still thinking, some children came to him. Then they ask him to do the usual thing. Rain sees an eagle flying and makes a temporary contract with it. He orders the eagle to say hello to the children, which makes the children very happy, and he decides to let the eagle go. The children tell Rain they'll become beast tamers just like him, rather than heroes. When Rain inquires about this, they say the other party members always look annoying, but Rain is different and always plays with them. After thinking about it for a while, he decides to become an adventurer. At the Adventurers Guild, Rain gives his name for registration as an adventurer. He asks the guild receptionist, Natalie Br, to tell him about the adventurer's system. She gives him the essential knowledge and asks his class. Upon hearing Beast Tamer as his class, she becomes anxious, which makes Rain remember what Leanne had told him before, but Rain says he'll be fine. He was then told to kill 10 goblins as a registration test. Using a squirrel, he tracked the goblins and started to attack them. He kills them off and collects the magic stones. He then hears someone scream, only to find out that a girl is being cornered by a killer tiger. He decides to use his knife to attack it, but its skin is so hard that the knife breaks up. As the killer tiger cornered him, he witnessed the girl jump at a very high speed and slam the tiger. Rain sees that the girl is from the cat tribe, said to be an endangered species. The girl falls, and Rain asks whether she is okay or not. She says she is hungry. After Rain gives him some food, she gives him thanks and introduces herself as Kanat. While they start talking about themselves, Rain tells her about his banishment, which makes Kanade angry with the hero. This made Rain happy, as she was angry with him, and he patted her on the head, and she happily enjoyed it. She then asks Rain to tame her. At first, Rain wonders if it is possible to do so but feels that he wants to know Kanade better and try it, which turns out to be a success. The Adventurers Guild recognizes Rain, an F-ranked adventurer, and awards him 50 copper coins for successfully completing a quest. He plans to rank up and earn more money for his troubles. Rain meets with Kanade in the cafeteria and asks her to accept a quest. When the man challenges Rain to an arm wrestling contest, Rain wins, surprising both of them. Natalie apologizes for the man's antics and suggests they take on basic jobs to gain experience and rank up. Kanade is excited to take on a new job, but they are only allowed to complete basic jobs due to their F rank. Rain forms a temporary contract with some horned rabbits to collect their quota of herbs. They encounter the Ebon Fangs, an infamous bandit group with 100 members. Kanade rescues the old man and his mule, and they ambush the bandits. Rain's newfound strength is a concern for Kanade, who fears Rain may not be able to handle it. As they reach the Ebony Fangs hideout, Rain apologizes to Kanade for being a fool and asks him what the plan is. He explains that the plan involves another temporary contract with an Abi, whose skill can paralyze a person for over 12 hours. Kanade is amazed that he could tame an insect despite being a beast tamer. He learns the basics of taming insects from his home village. Rain ordered Kanade to return to town to obtain reinforcements while Rains is gonna handle the Ebony Fang members. She learns of the need for reinforcements, specifically the Order of Knights, a group tasked by the government to uphold peace in the land. Kanade leaves, and Rain forms a temporary contract with them. Meanwhile, Mina and Leanne, Rain's old comrades, curse their situation and blame the Beast Tamer for their inadequacy. The Beast Tamer claims that their demands are too complex for him to accomplish, and that their notion that a Beast Tamer can tame over 20 animals is impossible. Leanne holds the Beast Tamer responsible for their failure. As Rain and his Abis deal with the remaining Ebony Fangs members, Kanade arrives with reinforcements. They find that only adventurers are present, and a trio of Berserk King lizards attack the Ebon Fang members and Rain. Together, Rain and Kanade defeat the monster, allowing the adventurers to carry the Ebony Fang members out of the area. They exit the Ebony Fang's base with Kanade holding onto the King Lizard's magical stones and are praised for their accomplishment by their fellow adventurers. Rain, who recalls being kicked out of Ario's party for being useless, is thankful for Kanade's help. Rain and Kanade go to the Adventurers Guild to get their reward bounty on the Ebony Fangs. They are promoted from F rank to E rank and given a significant reward for their efforts. They purchase new equipment and celebrate a fancy dinner together, but eventually end up in their current predicament. Rain agrees to share a room with Kanade for the night. A week has passed since they first met, and Rain's inner monologue explains his enjoyment of the laid-back adventuring lifestyle he and Kanade have been living thus far. They learn from Natalie that a hooligan has taken refuge at Stride Bridge and picks fights with anyone who tries to cross the bridge. Rain accepts the quest and heads to the bridge with Kanata. A red dragon flies overhead, lands close to the two, transforms into a female humanoid, and proclaims its desire to fight them. Then she introduces herself as Tanya, a dragonoid. Tanya challenges Rain and Kanata to a match, and they both agree to the challenge. The battle starts with Tanya throwing a punch at Rain, who barely defends against it. Impressed by this feat, Tanya then breathes fire at the two, setting Kanata's tail on fire. Because of this, Kanata fights against Tanya, and Rain watches in amazement at how Kanata can fight against Tanya on equal footing. To help Kanata, Rain tries to attack Tanya, but she catches Rain as he soars in the air, grabs Kanata, and throws them into the air while preparing to breathe fire at them again. However, they manage to dodge the attack by working together, earning Tanya praise. Noting the difficulty of facing off against Tanya, and how he needs to fight like a beast tamer, Rain asks Kanata to buy him 3 minutes to prepare. Without hesitation, Kanata agrees to help and faces off against Tanya as Rain forms a temporary contract on a bird and asks it to call for reinforcements. After this, Rain takes over, and with the birds he contracted, they attack Tanya, who becomes immobilized after they attack her. Rain then reveals that the birds are called Peto, and their plumage is poisonous. Tanya surrenders, incapable of fighting further, and Rain asks her to come with them. Questioning what would happen if she refused, Rain answers that he doesn't know but comments on what a fix he'd be in if Tanya doesn't comply. Amused by the response, Kanata pokes Tanya into submission, making her agree to the demand. Rain and Kanata report back to Natalie at the Adventurers Guild, and Tanya draws attention to herself. Rain disciplines her, but she agrees to tame her as well. Meanwhile, Arios complains about his team's wasted efforts in the Lost Woods, and Arios wants to recruit Rain back into the group, only to dump him again after they complete it. Rain explains that Slimes and his team were tasked with subjugating the monsters, which unsettles Kanata due to their stickiness whenever they're defeated. Tanya then boasts that she'll be able to defeat them all for her. Standing by and watching the scene unfold, Rain notes how happy he was about how the two were getting along. Time passes, and the group cannot locate a swarm of slimes. Hence, Rain uses one of his taming abilities on a bird called Assimilate to merge his soul and control the bird to search for slimes within the area. Eventually, Rain locates the swarm of slimes, and before they begin the job, Tanya asks Rain if he can use any magical spells. Rain answers that he can use Fireball and Heal, which, under Tanya's suggestion, casts Fireball against the slimes, eliminating every last one of them. Tanya, who explains that Rain's abilities have risen since making a contract with her. Just then, more slimes appear on the scene, and, following Tanya's tuition, Rain learns how to control his magic better. That night, the group enjoys dinner at a restaurant. Once they're finished, Rain reveals the background of his home village and how it was lost one day due to a monster attack. A group of adventurers would rescue Rain, and he was relocated to an inn, where he worked his keep for years until Arios' group recruited him. He joined the group without hesitation, believing it would be for the better and would allow him to prevent the same tragedy that happened to his village. However, the group thought of him as a useless tag-along, leading to his dismissal from the hero's party. Hearing this story saddens both Tanya and Kanata, but they note their fury against the hero party for how they treated Rain, and he assures them that it's all behind him. The day after, Rain's group subjugates a bunch of orcs, one of which manages to stab Rain in the arm with a knife while trying to protect Tanya. Assuring that he's fine, Rain then uses Heal on himself, which instantly heals the wound, and suggests they collect the magical ores the orc left behind and turn them into the Adventurers Guild. That afternoon, Rain does this and learns from Kanata that Tanya had wanted some time to herself. Tanya stood on a bridge gazing at the flowing river water below, pondering whether or not she'd done the right thing. Soon, Rain finds Tanya, who formally apologizes to him for her actions earlier that day. On the other hand, Rain notes his relief for being able to find Tanya, and that night, Tanya realizes her feelings for Rain, but would flatly deny them as a fondness for him. The following day, after another successful quest was completed, Tanya suggested to Rain that they purchase new equipment. Before they're able to progress any further, Arios and his party confront Rain on the road and give him a greeting. Rain immediately suggests they take a different route. Arios makes some disparaging remarks, so Kanata and Tanya step in to defend their master. Tanya then questions Arios' group's identity as the hero party. Disliking Tanya's tone, Arios tries to rebuke her but realizes that she and Kanata are, respectively, dragonoids and cat spirits. With Arios' party telling Rain that they're Rain's tamed monsters, Rain asks what business they have for him, and Arios claims that due to the difficulty of the Lost Woods, they had to withdraw from it. Hence, Arios offers an olive branch to Rain, allowing him to rejoin his group despite his uselessness. Agath, Leanne, and Mina then all comment that Rain should be grateful for them allowing him to rejoin their group. However, Rain refuses their offer, but Leanne tries to convince him, claiming a relic called the Shield of Truth located in the forest would give them a fighting chance against the Demon King. Furthermore, Leanne mentions that monsters would swarm and attack settlements without that relic, which triggers memories of Rain's past. Under pressure, Rain quietly agrees to it, and Arios' group chastises him for not accepting it from the start. As Arios' group starts to walk off, both Kanata and Tanya stop the hero party and demand that they properly apologize to Rain by groveling. The suggestion shocks the hero party, and Tanya threatens to incinerate them with her breath if they don't voice their disdain for it. Grabbing Rain by the cuff of his collar, Arios demands that he keep his pets on a shorter leash, which upsets Rain. However, Arios insists on it and tries to make him confess that they're not his pets, but he insinuates they're his lovers, causing Rain to punch Arios. With that, Arios challenges Rain and his tamed monsters to a duel to see who is stronger, and Rain accepts it. In separate locations, Kanata faces off against Agath, Tanya faces off against Mina and Leanne, and Rain faces off against Arios. Kanata's fight starts first, and Agath is happy that he has to fight against an ultimate species such as her, and Kanata vows to beat him up and make him apologize to Rain. Kanata starts the fight with a quick and powerful flurry of punches. Agath manages to defend against the attacks with his broadsword, and she quickly ends the fight with a single kick. Elsewhere, Tanya faces off against Leanne and Mina. Tanya casts the epic spell Ultimate End against the two, but it's a fake out, making them pass out. On Rain's side, he faces off against Arios, who forces him back with his swift swordplay. Despite this, however, Rain only takes minor scratches from the attacks and notes how underwhelming the pressure Ario is giving off compared to Tanya. Rain then attacks Arios with a punch to the gut, which wounds him, and Rain reveals that forming contracts with Kanata and Tanya granted him newfound power. Utilizing the analytics he's gathered from his observations of Arios and with the help of an obby, Rain wins his fight against Arios. Moments later, Tanya and Kanata rush to Rain's side and embrace him. Rain and his party arrive in the Lost Woods, where the Shield of Truth is said to be located. A flashback reveals that after Arios' group was defeated by Rain's, they apologized for their misbehavior. Rain accepts their apology. Then, Arios explains the Shield of Truth's current situation within a monster's hands in the Lost Woods. With that, Rain agrees to accept the task. In the present, Rain assures his two companions of the importance of finding the Shield of Truth for Arios' group. To start their search, Rain assimilates with a bird on a temporary contract to scope out the area, leaving Kanata and Tanya in charge of looking after his body. Immediately, Rain locates a pathway leading to their goal, but when they follow it, they get lost despite taking the correct path. Tanya casts Material Search to investigate the surrounding area, which leads them to a tree emitting illusionary magic, where Tanya asks Kanata to knock it down. Before Kanata can, a disembodied voice demands they leave that place, and from the tree, a fairy appears before them. Although Rain tries to introduce himself and reveal his group's goal, the fairy refuses to listen and warns them that she'll expel them from the forest if they don't leave. Heeding this warning, they starts to run back into the woods to discuss their encounter with the fairy. Kanata recalls that a monster inhabits the tree, and Tanya suggests they still break down the tree to remove its illusionary barrier. However, Rain insists that he visit and talk with the fairy alone. Approaching the fairy again, Rain tries to start a conversation with her, who threatens to hurt him if he doesn't leave. On the other hand, Rain accepts the threat because he's confident in his monster negotiation capability. As he said, Rain takes and is hurt by the fairy's illusion arrows, perplexing her as Rain's actions contradict how she's known humans to act. Rain admits he's human and not all are the same. But the fairy sends off a second barrage of illusion arrows only for Kanata and Tanya to protect Rain. Both of them then try to reason with the fairy, but get into an argument midway concerning Kanata's initial approach. Intrigued by the group, the fairy drops her hostility towards them. Asking for Rain's name, Rain reveals it to the fairy, who, in turn, introduces herself as Sora and agrees to listen to their plea. From their conversation with Sora, it's learned that the barrier blocks the entryway to the fairy village and that her people protect the Shield of Truth. Learning that the Shield of Truth was needed to defeat the Demon King, Sora fetches it and gives it to Rain. Despite Rain's offer to help her with anything, Sora flatly rejects it, noting she was merely following the ancient pact between the fairies and the previous hero. Once that was done, Kanata and Tanya tried to leave, but Rain returned to Sora and asked what was bothering her. When Sora hesitates to respond, Rain, Kanata, and Tanya persuade her to speak about her twin sister Runna and their responsibility to guard and maintain the barriers leading into the fairy village. All was well between the two until they exited the barrier for personal reasons and encountered a monster affiliated with the Demon King army. Rain then details that the monster Sora and her sister Runna encountered was called a Shadow Knight. Although weaker than an ultimate species like them, it has tricky characteristics, like magical nullification, so only physical attacks can harm it. Sora confirms it and continues her story where the Shadow Knight demanded that she lower the barrier. But in fear, she fled and was told by the leader to abandon Runna. Hearing Sora's plea, Rain vows to help and rescue Runna from the Shadow Knight, causing Sora to embrace Rain tearfully. Now, Sora explains the condition of Sora's release given by the Shadow Knight by lowering the barrier over the fairy village by sundown. Due to this information, Rain refuses to allow Sora to tag along as it'd break her deal with the monster. Reaching the Shadow Knight's location, Rain's group finds it sitting on a throne with Runna, and immediately, Rain casts a fireball against it as a feint. It allows Conant and Rain to land a few blows against the Shadow Knight, who realizes that Sora sent Rain's group and then attacks Runna. However, Tanya protects her, releases her from her captivity, and flees the scene, carrying her away. After forming a temporary contract with some obbies to act as a distraction, Rain casts Boost on Conant, who utilizes her bolstered power to defeat the Shadow Knight. After Rain's explanation of the Boost spell to Conant, Tanya returns to them, still carrying Runna in her arms. Tanya also notes her perplexion about how Rain knew a powerful lost art, but he claims everyone in his village was privy to it. As Runna awakens, Rain informs her that Sora had asked them to rescue her, making Runna feel relieved. Afterward, Runna embraces Sora, and the two thank Rain's group for their actions. A brief scene concerning Runna's crude thoughts about Rain and Sora's reprimanding of her sister occurs, leading Rain to believe they're polar opposites. Although Kanade had hoped Sora and Runna would return to their village, Sora notes that since Runna had been excommunicated from there, she wants to distance herself from it. Having no place to go or adequate knowledge of the outside world, Kanade invites the fairies to join them. Rain allows it and forms a contract with the two. Later that day, Rain meets the heroes' party so he can finish the quest to find and give to them the Shield of Truth, while his party secretly watches. However, Arios is flabbergasted at how it took Rain's group 2 days to retrieve the shield, yet it took his own group 2 weeks. Rain suggests his group examine its authenticity. Leanne casts an appraisal on it, which shocks everyone in her party that it's the genuine shield, and Arios notices the 2 new faces in Rain's party. Not wanting to create a scene where 2 fairies are in a human settlement, Rain demands his quest reward. Before Rain could leave, Agath stopped him and asked if he'd be interested in rejoining the party. Agath realizes the team's inadequacy without Rain's support. Mina and Leanne both reluctantly agree with Agath's suggestion and ask if Rain would accept his offer. However, Rain refuses, as he's content with his current life. Once Rain had left, Agath, Mina, and Leanne opined their disdain for Rain refusing their offer, but Arios, who was still embittered by his defeat against Rain, had him agitated, whom he vowed to eliminate. Elsewhere, underneath a tree, Rain explains to his party about the legend of the first hero who defeated the Demon King. Apparently, only one with the blood of the gods can be the hero and have the unrestrained potential called Limit Break to be capable of defeating the Demon King. Arios was thought to be fairly weak compared to Rain, and Sora notes that he could be the real hero, going on to explain his accomplishments by taming everyone in his party. Kanade then suggests that Rain should tame more spirits, which would grant him enough power to defeat the Demon King, and Tanya concurs. On the other hand, Rain declines, noting the responsibility and how he's only managed to achieve everything thus far thanks to their support. Rain doesn't completely dismiss the idea, as it's far too early to decide on such an endeavor.
Well, yeah,
Enjoying
I've told you a
breakfast
bunch of
outside,
times.
Rain and his party discuss purchasing equipment for him for the journeys ahead, and Rain agrees with it. The group heads to a weapon store and is greeted by its dwarven owner, Gantz, who suggests they pick out a weapon of their choosing. Rain checks out a dagger and notes the odd feeling it projects. A male customer enters the store wanting the store's best sword, and Gantz picks one out for the customer who purchases it. Once the customer left, Rain confronted Gantz about how all his weapons were of poor quality, and the owner confirmed it. Runna and Sora then belittle Gantz as a petty swindler, but he stands up for himself and shows them his best weapons for sale. When asked why he sold his last customer a paltry weapon, Gantz claims it was a test of gumption with weaponry. Furthermore, Gantz explains that most customers waste swords and toss them away when a newer model is released, which would damage his blacksmith spirit. Tanya then has a reciprocating moment with Gantz about their mutual ideals. Once that was settled, Gantz asked how Rain knew his weapons were different. Rain then details his experience as a beast tamer, which relied on astute observation of animals and would unconsciously observe his surroundings. Impressed by Rain's explanation, Gantz agrees to make a custom weapon for him. However, he lacks the materials to do it. Eventually, the group heads to the Adventurers Guild, where a large group of adventurers surrounds the bulletin board. Natalie informs them that Arios was in Horizon, seeking to recruit new support members. Then he introduces Runa and Sora to Natalie. Runa alludes to Natalie that her relationship with Rain is deeper than a natural one, which shocks her, making Rain disconcerted and trying to explain properly. Rain submits a formal quest from Gantz requesting mithril ore. A flashback reveals that the ore may be located in a depleted mine that Gantz inherited from his family. Getting assured and pepped by his team, Rain agrees to search Gantz's mine for the ore, and the two formally introduce themselves to each other. When inquired about how much gold he'd like to receive for the quest, Rain requests a new weapon be made instead, which elates Gantz. Upon reaching their destination, Rain suggests they stand to watch close by the mine's entrance to see if his theory of thieves stealing from the mine is true. A hawk starts circling, making Rain gasp, and a couple of thieves exit the mine. They beat them, and Sora and Runa use their magic to peer into the thieves' minds to figure out their motives. They learn that Rain's theory is true and that the thieves are associated with 5 other adventurers within the mine. To make matters worse, Rain suspected that one of the adventurers was a beast tamer because the hawk he spotted was acting as a lookout. Inside the mithril mines, the thieves are alerted by their comrades' defeat by the group's beast tamer, who vows to avenge them. Walking through a tunnelway within the cave, Rain's party is then ambushed by 4 adventurers who are quickly dealt with: Runa, Sora, Tanya, and Kanad. With only the beast tamer left, Rain faces off against him and his B-ranked monster Behemoth. Despite being a difficult monster to tame, the beast tamer boasted that he raised it from its childhood. Rain's fight against the Behemoth causes the mine to shake and crumble. Hence, Kanad and the others take the captured thieves outside for their safety. However, Kanada returns inside the cave to assist Rain by capturing the beast tamer as he handles the Behemoth. Although Kanada restrains the beast tamer, he refuses to surrender. So, Rain overwrites the Behemoth's contract and causes its original owner to provoke it, making Rain cast a fireball to defeat it. Outside the mine, it's learned that the thieves were out for revenge against Gantz for selling them inferior weapons. This is later relayed to Gantz, who feels remorseful about his judgmental attitude toward the customer he had deemed unworthy of his fine craft. Gantz claims his actions make him a failure as a craftsman, and Rain agrees but asks that he make amends by pouring his soul into weapon making again. Moved by Rain's words, Gantz promises to deal honestly with his customers and weapons again. To start his new endeavor, Gantz asks Rain what kind of weapon he wants, and he answers that he'd like a new dagger and gauntlet. Meanwhile, Arios with Mina close by reject an applicant for the beast tamer job they posted, spotting his inadequacy and skill for taming an ultimate species. As Arios laments over another failed applicant, Mina internally reflects on how Arios failed another worthy applicant because they didn't match Rain's caliber. Worried that their stalling hinders their responsibility for defeating the Demon King, Mina asks Arios if he'd amend the criteria for the job post. Mina's suggestion gets an apprehensive response from Arios, so she backtracks, noting her holy vow to God to follow the hero, and leaves it at that. Alone, Arios pulls a cursed ring from his desk and plans to use it to get revenge against Rain. The following day, Rain visits the Adventurers Guild and learns the ore thieves' fate from Natalie, which disheartens him. Exiting the guild, Rain details the news to Runa and Sora, who console the dispirited Rain. Walking down the town street, Rain purchases hot dogs for them all, and Runa and Sora enjoy them. After they're done eating, Runa and Sora ask Rain if he's obtained any special skills or abilities by forming a contract with them. However, Rain was uncertain if he did or not, which disconcerts Runa and Sora, but they believe Rain could have obtained ultimate magic, which is greater than advanced or epic magic. They decide to get more hot dogs but are stopped by a pompous man accompanied by 2 guards who demands Runa and Sora's names. The pompous man's presence alerts the crowd, and after the fairies give their names, he proclaims he'll make them his. Runa and Sora rejected him. Rain then steps in and demands to know his name, who introduces himself as the Lord of Horizon's son, Edgar Fromware. Edgar surrounds the group with his soldiers and asks again if they will agree to his offer, which Rain again rejects on their behalf. Hence, Edgar orders his soldiers to attack him, but Rain promptly defeats them. Backed into a corner, Edgar orders the remainder of his soldiers to hold the surrounding people as hostages. Disgusted by how Edgar views his subjects, Rain awakens his fairy magic capability and rescues the hostages using a multicast fireball spell on the soldiers. This forces Edgar to flee the scene in shame, and Rain's group is met with praise. However, one lady in the crowd warns them that they should leave Horizon for their safety as a cloaked individual watches them from afar. Later, at the inn, Rana and Sora relay what had happened earlier to Kanata and Tanya. It's speculated that Rain's magical control dramatically improved after forming a contract with the twins. Their conversation then changes to Edgar's shady background, which involves him kidnapping and torturing women for his amusement. Edgar apparently gets away with his dirty deeds, thanks to his father's influence as Horizon's lord. After deliberating over what to do, it's ultimately decided that Rain and his party will defeat Edgar and save the city. That night, Edgar talks with his father, and after he excuses himself, Edgar pays his knight Gillet to take care of Rain. Once he's gone, Edgar summons a slave servant of his and proceeds to beat her for not meeting his outlandish expectations. The following day, Rain and Kanata visit the Order of Knights headquarters to file a formal complaint against Edgar. However, the complaint was formally rejected as it had already been reported as a minor scuffle and would not be investigated further. Rain would later opine that the knights were in cahoots with Edgar. They are then approached by the vice-captain knight named Stella, who requests their help to bring down Edgar. Trusting Kanata's judgment about her opinion of Stella, Rain agrees to help her while also cleaning out the corruption within the Knights of the Order. To catch the corrupt knights in a trap, Stella enlists help from some trusted knights in her division, and Rain gets his new gauntlet from Gantz. By nightfall, a trap is laid at a warehouse rumored to have incriminating evidence against Edgar, and thus the corrupt Knights of Order are sent to investigate. Once they enter the warehouse, the entrance is sealed off, and the knights, aside from Gillet, are knocked out. Facing off against her superior, Stella tearfully defeats Gillet in one-on-one combat. Meanwhile, at Fromware Manor, Edgar receives news of Gillet's arrest and takes out his frustration on his slave servant. The cloaked individual then visits him, who's revealed to be Arios Incognito. Arios explains that Rain is a beast tamer who managed to tame multiple ultimate species for Edgar. He then gives him a cursed ring, under the pretense that it's a magical item that brings death to its target. A couple of soldiers in front of Edgar's mansion warn Stella not to trespass any further. However, Stella announces her name and title while proclaiming they're there to conduct an inspection. Furthermore, she mentions that Gillet had been arrested on corruption charges. Since the soldiers refused to comply with Stella's orders, the two soldiers to alert their comrades that they're under attack. Tanya and Kanata break through the main gate as Edgar watches from his room, anticipating that his newly acquired ring will help him defeat Rain. Meanwhile, Rain, Rana, and Sora manage to infiltrate the mansion's basement in hopes of rescuing the hostages there. Rana casts Material Search, planning to teleport any hostages they locate out of the mansion magically. Once Rana detects a large magical signature below them, believed to be the hostages, one of the other signatures is said to be on par with Sora and her. Rain suspects that another ultimate species is held captive there and decides to have the fairies rescue the hostages while he rescues the ultimate species. Walking through the mansion alone, Rain locates the ultimate species, which turns out to be Nina, a demigod. As he breaks into her cell and casts a healing spell on her. Thankful for what Rain did, Nina gives her name and then embraces him. Then Nina informs Rain of her situation, and he decides to emancipate her. Rain's plan, however, backfires at first since, although the slave caller's magic is fundamentally similar to a beast tamer's magic, it's still difficult for him to break. By utilizing the power granted by his tamed friends, Rain manages to break the slave caller's spell, which frees Nina. Outside, Stella, her knights, Kanata, and Tanya all continue dealing with the soldiers surrounding the area and are soon joined by Rana and Sora. The fairies inform the others that they've rescued the hostages. Hearing this energizes both Kanata and Tanya, who continue their onslaught against the soldiers. In his room, Edgar reassures his father that he'll handle the situation alone. In the mansion's foyer, Rain, carrying Nina on his back, regroups with Stella's group, who claim Rain had another girl, much to his chagrin. Edgar's father entered the foyer and was ordered by Stella to surrender himself. He refuses and is sequentially captured by Rain's gauntlet wire. Immediately, Edgar appears and, using the ring that Arios gave him, summons a reaper that stabs him in the chest with its scythe. Standing atop the mansion's roof, Arios gloats about Rain's supposed death and claims he'll now be able to rest easy. After Arios disappears into the night, Rain is unharmed by the Reaper's attack. Sora mentions that Rain was just hit with an instant death spell, yet it did not affect him. So, Rana casts a poison affliction spell on Rain, which doesn't work, and it corroborates her hypothesis that Rain is immune to status effect magic. Watching from the second-floor banister, the despondent Edgar watches the conversation between Rain and his party while internally lamenting how an entitled noble such as him had failed. Refusing to accept the outcome, some dark, ominous energy escapes from Edgar's ring and engulfs him, transforming the noble into a demon. The demon leaves Edgar's mansion to target the townfolk below, and determined to stop it, Rain and his part pursue it. However, Rain has Stella and Nina avoid confrontation with the demon in favor of helping the townfolk. Rampaging through the town, the demon is stopped by Kanada and confronted by Rain's group. Their first efforts against the demon prove futile, and to even the odds, the demon summons monster reinforcements. Despite their efforts to defend themselves against the monsters, the demon casts a spell that destroys parts of the town, setting it on fire. In retaliation, Rana and Sora pin the demon in place with a light magic spell as Rain boosts Kanata and Tanya's powers. The two then launched a barrage of punches against the demon, followed by a light spell that flung the demon into the sky. Kanada then launches the demon to the ground with a gut punch. However, all they managed to do was blow off its left arm. It then proceeded to summon more monsters and prepare to destroy Horizon. Hence, Rana and Sora volunteered to use their magic to teleport the townsfolk to a safe location. Meanwhile, Mina informs Arios about the rampaging demon in Horizon. However, he refuses to take any action against it, as their main priority is the demon lord. Back in Horizon, Stella, accompanied by her knights and Nina, defeats the demon's summoned creatures. They're soon joined by Sora and Rana, who request their assistance with evacuating the townsfolk using teleportation magic. With that, Stella and her knights leave to round up any townsfolk they can find, as Nina stays behind with Rana and Sora. Eventually, Stella and her knights gather some townsfolk and they immediately teleport them. Before the second wave of people could be teleported, a pack of monsters arrive. Returning to Rain's group, they get a help from the town's adventurers. As that goes on, Rana deals with the newly arrived reinforcements, and Sora teleports the remaining townsfolk to safety. Feeling inadequate, Nina joins Rain's group in hopes of helping them. Both Kanata and Tanya realize that Nina could use her demigod powers to teleport Rain close enough to the demon so he could confront it. Carrying Nina on his back, Rain uses Nina's teleportation magic to confront the demon, and after casting Boost on himself, he magically restrains the demon. In doing this, Rain becomes afflicted by the demon's influence but manages to overcome it and overwrite the demon's control over its monsters. Enraged, the demon breaks free from his restraints and tries to attack Rain, but is overwhelmed and defeated by its turncoat monsters. Once the demon was defeated, Nina became too exhausted to maintain the two in the air, causing them to fall to the ground. Before they crash land, they're caught by Tanya. 3 days pass since the demon rampaged through Horizon. Stella had since been appointed the new Knight's captain. As for Gillett and Edgar's father receive formal punishment for their corrupt actions. The following days, at the inn Rain's party stayed at, Nina was officially a part of the group. Later, at the Adventurers Guild, Rain and the group learn from Natalie and Stella that the Knights are allying with the guild. From there, Natalie informs Rain that his party has officially been promoted to C rank due to his recent achievements involving Horizon. Nina is also formally introduced to Natalie, who affectionately cuddles her. Once that was settled, Rain mentioned his group was seeking advice for their housing situation. Hence, Natalie suggested they purchase a house. After some consideration, Rain agrees to the proposal, and they all go house hunting. All but the final house Natalie shows them matches everyone's individual requirements. However, she confesses that the house is haunted. Natalie also mentions various incidents that have occurred at the house that have dissuaded people from buying it. Therefore, Rain decides to investigate the place before deciding on purchasing it. Upon entering the living room, a disembodied voice demands the group get out, and a maid ghost appears before them. Taking action, Sora and Rana cast Holy Circle on it. However, it briskly dodges it. The group then comes to realize that said ghost has no means of attack, and it decides to haunt the terrified Kanata. This proves to be her undoing, as despite ghosts being immune to physical attacks, Kanata's fear allows her to transcend such a weakness. After chasing the ghost around the house, Sora and Rana cast the sacred seal around the room to prevent any escape from astral beings. Before the ghost could possess Rain, he used his power as a beast tamer to stop her, a feat he learned in his childhood from a neighbor of his. At Rain's mercy, the ghost is asked by Rain to talk things over with him and his party. The ghost introduces herself as Tina and discloses a bit of her backstory. In the end, Rain decides to purchase the house. Meanwhile, the hero's party walks the streets and is met with disdain by its townsfolk. Arios attacks a fruit seller's stall and leaves, upset that they favor Rain more than him. Back at his home, Rain returns home with Kanata and enjoys a feast for dinner. Before digging in, Rain reflects on how fortunate he is to have all met his party members, has a flashback to his parents, and looks forward to whatever comes next. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe.